Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining me in the record room today. My name is Doug. If you're new here, time again to hit you with another installment of Fat City Spinout, my series of recent listens, new arrivals to the collection from a variety of genres. As you may have seen from the intro, we just got back from our annual family holiday to Vancouver Island, Canada. We've been going to the same spot now for, I think, 6 years in a row. Never thought we would be the kind that would have that one holiday destination we always go to, but it's become a tradition we enjoy. Didn't do a whole lot, just took it easy. Weather was perfect the entire time we were there. When we went over, it was a little bit cloudy, kind of cool, but every day after that, straight sunshine. The gazebo you see in the clip in the beginning, popular spot for weddings. There was one almost every day we were there, a few steps from our front door. Got to see all the comings and goings. One of the more interesting ones was a pair of 82-year-olds getting married. My wife got talking to them. They were actually high school sweethearts who broke up, went their separate ways in life. I think the groom had moved to England, and then they got back together, reconnected through Facebook, and were getting married. The bride was actually we didn't get her name, but she was a published author apparently. Got talking to them. Brought along some holiday reading. Been meaning to get to this one, the Chris Blackwell autobiography, The Islander. Thought it would be an appropriate read on Vancouver Island. A great tale of a remarkable life. Chris Blackwell, of course, the founder of Ireland Records, which launched Bob Marley and the Wailers to international stardom, had a massive impact on the globalization of reggae, but hugely influential in a variety of genres through artists such as Free, Tom Tom Club, Steve Winwood and Traffic, and many others. A very fascinating life as told through his autobiography. There was one record store in the town we stayed at. I'd been there before a couple of years back, kind of wasn't too impressive, but I thought, what the heck, I'm there, might as well pop in for a visit. Had to flip through the bins, wasn't looking too impressive, to be honest with you. Records you might get for $5 or $10 anywhere else. The only record store in this little small town, of course, so everything is $15, $20, $30. But I did find a couple of interesting ones I had never run across in the wild before. There were 3 of them, all about $30. About, I think one of them might have been $35. Didn't want to spend that much. Would have liked to have taken all 3. If it was just 2, I would have done it. But the 2 I ended up leaving behind were the first 2 albums by Mary Clayton. I had never seen those in the wild before. Had a look at the vinyl. They were in beautiful condition. Very tempted to take those, but again, didn't want to quite spend that much. Had to have kind of internal debate you sometimes have when you find these things. If it hadn't been for the one I did buy, I would have bought those 2 for sure, but just prior to that, I had run across this one in the bins, had never seen a original album by this artist before. It was Alice Coltrane, Lord of Lords, from 1972, I believe, original pressing on Impulse Records. Some coverware, as you can see, but the vinyl is in quite good condition. VG Plus, some little bit of minor surface noise here and there, but quite good overall. Gatefold pressing. This finds Alice Coltrane leading a very small trio, just herself on organ and harp, plus bass and drums, but backed by a huge string orchestra, giving it quite a cinematic feel. It sounds like the soundtrack to some epic 1960s movie, like perhaps Ben-Hur or Exodus, perhaps, but also some strong classical elements, extrapolating from Stravinsky on excerpts from the Firebird, and of course deeply spiritual bent, given Alice Coltrane's proclivities toward religion and music, blending the two together in an expression of love and devotion to God, basically, as the title indicates, Lord of Lords. With a couple of song compositions directly inspired by her late husband, John Coltrane, Sri Rama Ondaruth, John Coltrane's spiritual name, Going Home, quite a blues-based number. Very pleased to find my first original pressing of Alice Coltrane. This is one following a Journey to Satchidananda, which was the first one I ever heard by her, and I've also got the reissue of Patah the El Daoud. Haven't gotten around to showing that one yet, still in the listing rotation, but very pleased to add this one to the collection. Deep in the golden days of summer here on the west coast of Canada. If it was nice while we were on Vancouver Island, supposed to be even hotter next week as I record this. I'm just taking a break from getting the yard work done, getting it cleaned up before the real heat wave comes in, but it's got me reaching for some favorites that always seem to go well with the hot, languid, sunny days of summer. Maybe I won't say a huge amount about these ones. I've probably shown most of these before. Milt Jackson's Sunflower, was listening to this yesterday on the CTI label. The usual lush, richly orchestrated sound of CTI with the headline player, in this case vibraphonist Milt Jackson, just one kind of carefully placed elements of the proceedings, very much a large cast of players, no kind of one star. But this one seems to go especially well in the summer. It's got a very humid, sultry feeling to it, something of a southern gothic aspect that speaks of hidden passions, desires, just those sweaty, lazy days of summer, but something turbulent lurking underneath. That sounds not a million miles away from the mood of songs like Billie Holiday's Summertime and things like that. Annual summertime favorite I always pull out this time of year. Just pulled this one out this morning. Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66, their debut, the epitome of swinging 60s cool, building on from the crossover success of Bossa Nova with Astrid Gilberto, sadly passed away, who I talked about in the last video. Sergio Mendes, Brazilian pianist and arranger, building on that success to further popularize the rhythms of Brazil, mixing it with a bit of easy listening, kind of cocktail jazz, pop songs by Lennon and McCartney and others, a bit of Burt Bacharach and Hal David here and there, with lilting, contrasting female and male harmonies. Lani Hall, the future Mrs. Herb Alpert in the lineup here. Of course, includes their big hit, Mash Canada, annual summertime listen. And this one was relatively new to the collection. Didn't get around to showing it on a video, kind of listened to it, didn't know quite what significant to say about it, filed it away, pulled it again out for a listen the other day, and it kind of clicked together the way these things sometimes go. Party Down by Little Beaver, originally released in 1974 on the Cat label, a subsidiary of Henry Stone's TK Records based in Florida. I knew the title track, Party Down, kind of a heavily sampled favorite. This is a reissue from Real Gone Music, label I quite enjoy. They put out a number of soul and funk reissues, of which this is one. Little Beaver, aka William Hale, so nicknamed because of his childhood prominent front teeth. Rhythm and blues session guitarist, played on a lot of the TK sessions, and this is very much an extenuation of that. Some of the TK stars like Timmy Thomas and Lattimore appear on here as well. Even Jaco Pastorius reportedly plays bass on the title track, Party Down, which appears in two versions, a part two, much the same kind of laid back, easygoing, yet funky feeling throughout the album. This is a party album, one for summer, one for kicking back and listening to next to the pool. He's maybe not the best singer around, maybe not the most natural frontman, but he gets by on his sort of easygoing charisma. Nothing but a party, y'all.
Everybody having fun. Party down. Get it on and let the good time roll. You only got one time around. Turn your lights way down low and play the music sweet and slow and make love together. Yeah.
I'm going to wrap things up with a couple of brand new arrivals, and then my inbox is pretty much caught up as far as showing on video, at least for the moment. First up is a brand new reissue, just came out this year, another one from Real Gone Music, a label I do keep tabs on. They put out an interesting and eclectic schedule of releases across a variety of genres. This is a jazz one. Bass player Henry Franklin's Tribal Dance, originally released 1977 on the Catalyst label. This is a brand new Real Gone Music reissue on one of their web store exclusives. Kind of marbled vinyl. Henry Franklin, bass player who had played with Hugh Masekela, including on that big hit Grazing in the Grass, appeared in Masekela's band at the Monterey Pop Festival. First got onto him, well, I'd seen his albums shown over the years on here, but I first got onto him and Real Gone Music for that matter too, through their Black Jazz reissue program of a couple of years ago. As part of that, they put out The Skipper, and the next album, The Skipper at Home, his first two albums as band leader on his own. This is his third from 1977, sometimes described as spiritual. I was kind of expecting a bit of funk from the title, from the cover, but not really. More spiritual, I guess would say is accurate, quite cosmic leaning in places. There's some delicate piano as well on here with a couple of more personal songs. For Penny, dedicated to his wife, but some quite cosmic and spiritual overtones on this album from bass player Henry Franklin. And last up, many people have shown this one. I was a bit late getting to mine. A highly hyped reissue from classic hip-hop group De La Soul, their debut album 3 Feet High and Rising from 1989, originally released, I believe. The rights of their albums were tied up in legal limbo for many years, was quite anticipated when they finally were able to put them on streaming services, reissued all their albums on vinyl. This is the pink edition. De La Soul, part of the Native Tongues posse at the time, late 1980s, very early 1990s, a loose group of acts including Queen Latifah, the Jungle Brothers, A Tribe Called Quest, and so on, who had formed sort of a coalition to present an alternative to some of the hardcore aspects of hip-hop that were going on at that time, the gangster rap, the very in-your-face political rap of Public Enemy, perhaps. They presented more of a Afro-positive alternative to that. De La Soul in particular having quite a sense of humor, very heavily layered samples drawing from a variety of sources, including Johnny Cash, which gives the album its title from his song 5 Feet High and Rising. They flipped it to 3 Feet High and Rising, even flipping a Hall & Oates song on its ear and making it funky, reflecting their reality, their economic reality. They were from Long Island, not from the Bronx or Brooklyn, just being themselves and presenting an alternative to some of the stereotypes that were beginning to develop in hip-hop at that time. Not gonna front, I wasn't really up on De La Soul as it was happening. I was into Public Enemy, I was into NWA at this time, but De La Soul, I heard a couple of songs on here, but not really fully on my radar until many years later. Did catch up with some of their later albums on CD in more recent years. De La Soul, Stakes is High, and The Grind Date. And their second album, De La Soul is Dead. But this one escaped my notice until now. Glad to finally have it on physical copy. Sadly, of course, one of the members, Trugoy, passed away shortly before the release of their albums, finally at last. That's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for joining me, and cheers.